me know.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Faith. Today we're doing an interesting interview with a young lady called Victoria. She was born in Zimbabwe and she came here as a young girl, 6 years old. She grew up here in the UK. I just wanted to talk to us about her experience and how she can inspire other young women who were born in Africa and grew up in the diaspora, and also give tips to parents about how to raise us as parents, how we can raise these kids, you know, who grow up here and are born in Africa, how we can mix both cultures, the African culture and the Western culture. So I'm going to ask Victoria a few questions. Hopefully you'll be inspired by what she's going to say. Thank you guys for watching. So Victoria, so nice to have you today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I hope we can inspire some young women today, and obviously parents can learn something from you, because I've known you for over 10 years now, and you are one of the a very amazing girl from Africa, and I love that you like to keep your roots as well, despite fitting in as well in the Western culture. So my first question is, do you still remember the day you arrived into the UK?
I remember the most is saying goodbye to everyone. But in my head I just thought I was going on a trip somewhere. I didn't really understand, because you know, I'm going all the way to the UK. But I remember being on the plane. It was a long flight, and then even getting off the plane I was sick. I've never been on a plane before. And then I remember the first place we went to or stayed in was London. So yeah, I remember that.
That's amazing. And you're only 6 then?
Yeah, 6 years
that's
old.
Amazing. So how did it feel settling into UK schools? How was it like for you?
I would say in the beginning it was just different, because you realize, Kuti, like, you're in a different environment. Your family's not around. Even growing up, usually my mum was always working as a single parent, so I would have my cousins and siblings around and things like that. But here now you realize, you have to spend most of your time in school, and then obviously you're coming home to your family environment, so you're kind of in a space where you're learning into different environments, and you just have to learn and adjust. So I think that's what it was in the beginning. But I think as children anyway, you learn faster.
You adapt.
Yeah, you adapt quickly. So it wasn't an issue. I didn't find many difficulties. But I remember my mom saying in school, the teachers thought I was dyslexic. But I was like, what do you mean? And then I think it was because when I was learning Shona and English, it was at a very early stage. So obviously coming to England now, they probably expect you to speak full English, or to spell words in a particular way. But obviously in Shona, how we say things is how we write them down.
And the accent.
So that was interesting for me to learn from my mom. So yeah.
Wow. What do you remember most about Africa before you came?
What do I remember?
Yeah,
I remember.
You were quite young, 6 years old.
I remember quite a lot. Starting with going to creche, grade 1. I remember mostly memories with family. My grandparents mostly, because they were always around. They were, you know, teaching me things. And I grew up in a family where they based their, you know, values on Christianity. And I think that really grounded me as well. And my mom taught me discipline.
So you had a good start then?
No, I did, definitely. It was a strong foundation. And I always had people around. I just remember the scenery, like how nice Zimbabwe was, and just playing,
Oh.
being innocent, being free as a child. Yeah.
That's wonderful. How do you manage to still speak Shona? Because obviously you came as a young girl at 6 years old. How did you manage to keep the language?
I think it's mostly thanks to my mom, because when we came at home, we'd always speak Shona. Saka, when she wasn't around, I'd still have my siblings or my cousins around, so that's how we interacted from home. But then obviously in school, that's when you speak in English.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the greatest things I admire about you, because as a parent myself, I'm struggling to keep the language to teach my children. Obviously they're born here, but I wish them to speak more of the African language. When they get home, speak in our language, and then speak English in school. But I've struggled because when they were younger, my firstborn, I managed to teach a bit of Ndebele, but then the moment she started school, I just lost it. She can hear everything though, but
That's the thing
it, so it's amazing that you can still speak the language.
I think with the young generation that grows up here, they can understand, they know what you're saying, but for them to actually articulate it and put it into words themselves and speak, the native language, it's more difficult for them. But I think because when I was young, I knew Shona, like my mom would speak Shona to me. And then coming to England as well, she made sure that she would keep speaking Shona to us, so we wouldn't lose our language. Yeah.
That's amazing. How do you manage to fit in, balance both the African and Western culture? Because you've done so well. You know how to be a Western girl and African girl. You balance it so well, and I admire that so much about you. You don't forget your roots.
To be honest, it's been a struggle. It's not that easy.
But you do it so well.
Yeah, I think because, like I said, my mom was I'd say she was a strict parent growing up, but she always had her morals and values. So my mom is a very modest woman. Like when I look at her, I can't compare anyone to her. She's just on a different level to me. So growing up, she's been a good example for me. And obviously we've had conflicts as well, because there are times where I've gone out and I'm wearing something that might be a bit too revealing. She's like, and I'm like, Mom, like, I look nice.
That's a very good point, because our children want to dress a certain way, the Western culture, but us as African parents, how we're raised, our parents didn't allow us to wear short skirts or revealing dresses or low cuts. So it's really hard, because they'll feel left out seeing their friends wearing those kind of outfits, and us will stop them. So that's a very good point. You just have to there's a line between respecting your parent as well and trying to be like to dress like your age, your friends, go out with your friends.
I think it's what's important is respecting yourself as well as a person, because obviously you might know what kind of person you are, but then how other people perceive you in what you're wearing or your behavior that you display, it might be different to them. So it's just to avoid giving people the wrong impression and things like that, but at the same time you do want to be free to be a young woman, and to
and
enjoy
be like your mates,
and just to enjoy
in photos, come out in photos looking like your friends.
You don't want to look weird.
You don't want to look like you're going to church while your friends are wearing them. It's really hard, isn't it? It's really hard. It's an interesting point that you've raised. What can you say about how you were raised? Obviously you've mentioned some of the points. What can you say about how you were raised? You just say that your mom was a very modest woman and very strict, which helped you be like in the straight, in
the beginning. I think what it was when you're younger as a child, like my mom would say, I'm not your friend, so I understood that there's a certain level of respect I need to give this woman, and she's by all means, she's done so much, she sacrificed so much for us. It did get to a point though, when I was in high school, growing up as a teenager, that's when you start seeing the world differently as well, and you do want to hang out with your friends, and sometimes you adopt certain behaviors and things like that within your environment. And I used to clash with my mom so much.
I can imagine.
There was even a time where I started like bunking off school, like missing classes, things like that. And then one day
it's part of growing up. It's part of growing up.
My mom found out, and you know, it really upset her. And I think her reaction is what really made me ground myself again. So I was like, you know what, why am I doing this? Why am I going out of my way to argue with my mom? Because at the end of the day, she's
the one who brought me into the world.
She's the one who's looking after me, provides for me, and I'm showing her disrespect by doing this. It's not making sense. And these people I'm spending time with, they're probably not going to be in my life in the next few years. So I just changed.
It's a growth. I think it's part of growth as well. As you grow up, the way you think start to change from how you were when you're young. So that's some great point that you're saying. Victoria, I'm proud of you. How do you keep family tight as a young woman? Because I know you really love family. You've got nieces, nephews, aunties. You're so close to them and you always visit them. So how do you do that? How do you manage as a young woman? Because some kids, sometimes they don't care about relatives. I've witnessed kids who just know their family. They don't care about aunties, cousins, and all that. So I admire that about you as well, that you love family, to keep family tight. You try to do gatherings to let family keep together. It's really amazing. So I just wanted to know how you keep the family tight.
I think because back in Zim, I grew up with with my relatives around me, my cousins around me, my aunties around me. So I've always appreciated that, and I love being around people. I love being around my family. You have that security around you, and you have people that love you, and there's always something to do. Like it's nice. It's nice to be with your cousins as well, and to just play as kids. But then when I came to England, it's different because everyone's got different lives now.
Exactly.
And everyone's not in the same space. Some people are down south, some people are up north, or some people are in the West Midlands and stuff. So it's kind of like, I think that's when I started to gain my own independence as well, and not
make some choices.
Not really relying on other people and things like that.
Start to be independent.
But in terms of family, I've just always, I think with that growth and my grandparents instilling that in us, I've never
departed from
I've
those
never
ways.
departed from it or
that's
thought
amazing.
Otherwise. I just appreciate family, and I love my nieces and nephews.
I know you.
So
I know you always make an effort.
I feel like
Victoria is an amazing
an auntie.
So guys, I hope you are enjoying this interview. She's an amazing woman, and I admire her so much. You have your own channel on YouTube. Tell us more about that channel, where you're doing some poems, lovely poems. If you can brief people so that they can follow your channel as well.
Okay, she'll put the link.
I'll put the link at the bottom.
But I decided, you know what? I've always been a creative person, and I've always enjoyed creative writing and things like that. So, and I've always said I'm going to start a YouTube, but I just never really put time and thought into it. But one day I just decided, you know what? Like I actually.
Time.
I have a lot to say.
Let me not push it back. This is the time.
Like I'm actually a person who has a lot to say. Not that I like talking too much, but I'm expressive. And I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna start putting my poetry out there, my voice out there. Just saying, expressing my feelings or my thoughts, or just putting things in a certain way. And if people appreciate it, they appreciate it.
Well done. So I'm gonna put the details at the bottom. What can you say to other young women struggling to fit in or create a balance between both cultures? So what advice can you give them?
I would say, as an African woman myself, I know where I come from. I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud of the family that I've come from. And I think all those things help in your own growth and shaping your personality and the person you become in life. Although your environment definitely has a big effect on you, I would say to them, stay close to your roots, because the further you go away from your roots, you lose yourself, your identity, who you are, and the path that you're meant to be in life. So for me, it's like integrating into this society in the Western culture. It's not that I've wanted to be like other people or be like English,
and to
like
be yourself.
English,
Stay true to yourself.
For me, I'm humble, and I feel like I know who I am inside now, especially now at this age that I'm at, and that's very important for me. Like I want to be an African. I don't want to be anybody else.
Wow, that's amazing, guys. Are you listening? And I feel like people respect you more if you stay true to yourself and value your culture, value where you come from, so that they can learn something from you, rather than just you abandoning your culture and just taking the Western culture and just forget about everything. So she's saying some amazing points. I hope it can inspire other people. And
it has consequences.
Yeah, definitely. It's not easy because you get that pressure sometimes. People pushing you, somehow, and so lots of temptations, but it's always good to know yourself and stay real to yourself. So another point, the last question is, what can you say to African parents raising kids here from experience? Because it's so hard, for African parents. We're raised a certain way, and that's what we want to do to our kids, but it doesn't work somehow. All of it doesn't work because they are living in a different culture. They are living in a Western culture. So how do you create a balance as a parent? So I'm asking this young woman to tell us from her point of view, and what tips or what ways can work to make the children, not feel sad or feel like, oh, why are they treating me this way? So how we can do it? It's really hard,
I feel like, especially for children, it's really hard these days. They're growing up in an environment that's very, it's polluted. It's not very healthy for them, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of distractions going on anyway. And it's as hard for parents because most of the time you're away from your children, so you're not actually the ones raising your children. Most of the time they're in school institutions or being taken care of by other people, childminders. So I feel like from a very early age, it's good to talk to your children, instill, certain principles and values in them that they can grow up, knowing, and things that will help them develop as young people. For me, it was mainly, I think, growing up as a Christian with Christian values and morals, it was definitely good for me, although I think differently about Christianity now. But I'm just saying it shaped
you
the
how
type
the
of
way
person,
you are now.
the type of person I am. And also parents to not be too strict on their children, because you don't want your children to be afraid of you. You want them to be able to come to you and speak to you about any worries, any issues and things like that.
Or if they're having problems in school, they're getting bullied, but they're scared to talk, and because sometimes we don't have time for them as well. We're working, we're busy.
Exactly.
So
and sometimes you're frustrated.
How do you know that your child is troubled? She needs someone to talk to.
You need to make time for them.
Yes.
Because as a parent, it's frustrating. You've got work, you've got bills, you've got things like that. You might be frustrated
so
yourself.
There's a lot going on there. So it's just a matter of balancing things.
It is. Just give your children, space and time as well, but also just speak to them like young adults, because some children are very, very smart. You just think, it's just a child, but no, they're actually very intelligent wise. People, young people. Wow. And I would say, love your children. Let them know that you love them. Instill that love in them.
Because you said a very good point, because it's hard for African parents to express that side, hugs, kisses to your kids, and all those kind of things. We grew up in a tough environment.
Yeah, I grew up on tough love as
whereby
well.
There's not too much hugging and kissing too much.
Exactly.
I do that more when they're younger, but once they start to grow up, I can't really you know, do too much kissing and hugging.
I think that's
So it's
definitely like an
yeah,
African thing.
Yeah, it's an African thing.
But I learned as I got older, and I think it's
You need
because
hugs, kids need
yeah,
hugs,
because
you
being
need
around
hugs.
like white
Yeah,
people and
yeah.
how they do things,
Yeah.
they're like soft
Yeah,
and
soft,
loving.
so cuddly and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So even now, like I tell my mom like I love you, like before she goes to sleep and stuff, and
wow,
you know,
it's
because I know
I'll feel the love, but to say it now,
yeah,
to
it
be
might be
honest,
a bit hard for
it's
you
really, really
because you're
hard,
not
you know.
used to that.
I'm not used to it. I feel like it takes a lot of effort for me to even say that. It's inside, it's locked inside.
No, but no, tell your children like every day if you can, like that you care about them, you love them, and just make sure they feel comfortable around you as well as a parent. And I would say reinforce, you know, how amazing they are.
Okay.
You know,
Praise
sometimes,
them.
sometimes I know kids can do silly things, stupid things, and you know, you express that in a certain way. Or
Yes,
like
when it's bad, tell them, and then when it's good as well.
Yeah.
It's important to praise them. Yeah.
and
So,
obviously discipline is different now. I was raised with, you know, the slipper, the you know, beatings and stuff, but it
then
made
you're
me
told here that,
it
you know,
made me a
there's-
good person.
Yeah,
Like
put you on the.
no, it made me a strong person.
Yeah.
Because for me, I feel like I've been through a lot in life, and if my mom was a soft person, if she wasn't the person who she is, if she hadn't been through the things she's been through,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be broken by now.
Yeah, you be just.
But you have to
lost.
Yeah, no,
no
you have
direction.
you have to be strong for your kids. But when it comes to discipline, I think obviously you can speak to your children. The other thing, obviously, it's a bit political now, but I would say, just try and reinforce good things into your children, and hopefully they can just grow up on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the
And
best.
to love everyone, not just. You know, not to have hate for people.
I
Serve that
think,
love.
especially now in the time we're living in, it's
Yes,
important
so
to have serious conversations with your children about, you know,
What's going
racism,
on and-
about how people might see them growing up, especially for young
Exactly.
black
Yes,
children growing
yeah.
up in the UK, or you know, coming up from broken homes or whatever. Just speak to your children so they understand what kind of environment they're growing up in and the world outside of them.
That's it,
Yeah.
Oh. Thank you so much, Victoria. I hope you guys have enjoyed this interview. I've enjoyed so much. Very informative. Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you so much for taking your time, you know, to speak to me, and hopefully you guys will be inspired, you know. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you guys. Goodbye.